The Plumbing Marketing Profits Podcast. Interviews with $1 million plus plumbing and HVAC business owners on how they market and grow their companies in today's economy. Hear directly from the most successful leaders in your business and discover what they are doing to keep their phone ringing, trucks running, and businesses booming. With your host, Josh Nelson.
All right, well, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us on today's webinar. I'm really excited to be here with Gene Slade from the Lead Ninja. Say hi, Gene.
Hey guys, how's it going, Josh?
Excellent, and he's going to really be talking about and revealing how he was able to grow his HVAC business, which is based in Florida a couple years back, from zero to the point where he hit the Inc. 5000 list 2 years in a row, was able to sell it for a very nice profit, and he did it in a way that's different than what you've really seen. And I'm really excited because he's going to be showing you, not just telling you, but really showing you what goes into making the Inc. 5000 list and what is this unique marketing strategy that he was able to implement. Now, this is a live webinar, so you're on the call. You have the ability to ask questions and to engage with us. I'm going to ask that as you go about this webinar and as questions crop up for you, type them into the question box. We'll do our best to pause, answer those questions for you, and make sure you get as much out of this as possible. And so without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's kick it off and dive right into it, Gene.
Sounds good, man. I'm going to open up my screen a little bit more so I can click this questions box so that I can see things as they come through as well.
And I'll be keeping an eye on the question box for you as well.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thanks, guys, for joining us. Man, what a pleasure to come from the contracting side as you all are in, and to be able to break out of it and really go into helping other HVAC plumbing and solar contractors around the country, generate large amounts of capital growth, revenue and everything in their business. So appreciate you joining us. We're going to talk a little bit today about what I did in my business in order to get us from a point where we were a startup to the Inc. 5000 list the last 2 years before I sold the company, and what marketing I used specifically to do that. So my promise is that if you stay with us through this, I'm going to show you exactly how to get more leads, more sales, without experimenting or wasting money on things that don't work. Because, man, if it hadn't been for this strategy that I'm sharing with you today, there's absolutely no way that I would have been able to do what I was able to do with my company and create a bidding war towards the end. And I mean, we sold it in 10 days. When we decided to finally sell it, we sold it in 10 days without a broker. And these secrets are going to unpack exactly what made that happen for us. If you stay until the end, we're going to give you the radio advertising implementation blueprint. Actually, what you're seeing here today, we're going to ship it back off to you so that you've got notes and everything. You don't, if you miss something, you'll be able to get it. Guys, this is your business, right? I encourage you to shut your cell phones off, kick Facebook off. We've got so many distractions nowadays. If we're able to just take a little bit of time and get uninterrupted and get focused, focus is really about that's how you get things done in business. So don't let anything else compete for your time and your attention right now. If you're a plumbing or HVAC business owner and you are serious about your business, and not just serious about your business, but about taking it to the next level, getting better results, I promise you the information that I'm going to share with you, it changed my life. It can change yours as well in 60 to 90 minutes. A little bit about me and my history. I kind of grew up in the industry. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but I had a company that hit the Inc. 5000 list 3 times, actually. 2 times we were on the Inc. 5000 list, and then once we were the top 100 fastest growing contracting companies in the country. We were 59th on the list.
Nice.
So we grew the company and sold it. We were 2 times Inc. 5000, 1 time top 100 fastest growing companies, and then we sold the company in 10 days. I've had top articles on Contracting Business magazine, and my story starts where I really got, kind of starts where I got fired, my business life, if you will. I had $100 in the bank, and I started my business from the ground up, from concept. So if you're out there and you're a startup and you're starting from concept, I understand what you're going through. It's a challenge. I almost went broke doing it myself. So let's talk a little bit about my journey in HVAC. I grew up working for my dad's HVAC company in Michigan. So I understand Michigan climate. I understand the Florida climate that I'm in. I've traveled all over the country, and I get all of the climates. And this, what I'm going to share with you, will work for any climate. So don't worry about where you're located in the country. When I was young, my father was pretty hard on me, and I owe everything to him for that. He fired me 12 times in the first 3 years that I worked for him. It was, boy, go sit in the truck for the rest of the day. So I had plenty of days thinking about why I got fired. For instance, if I took something out of the basement without, if I went out of the basement without taking something we didn't need anymore, I was fired for the day. So my dad was tough. He taught me things that I needed to know. By 14 years old, believe it or not, I had enough competence to lead an installation. So towards the end of my 14th year in life, he got me a driver/helper, and we went out on the road, and I separated from him, and I was our first crew, if you will, other than my father. And I worked with him till I graduated high school. Went to college, wrestled for University of Tennessee, if any of you out there are wrestling fans. I'm a big wrestling fan. Returned from Michigan to meet my wife, and I had a very short stint as a furniture salesman in Flint, Michigan. They've been on the news a lot lately, and that was right when Buick City shut down, and nobody was walking through the door, so I reverted back to what I knew, right, as most of us do. Went back into HVAC as an installer. Very quickly was promoted to foreman, and then my life changed. I sent out 50 resumes to Florida, 50 resumes to Michigan for a sales job. I was like 20 years old. Nobody wanted to give me a sales job. But I landed my first straight commission sales job in Michigan. And that's when I realized there was actually money to be made in the industry. My father's business, we were two jeans in a truck. So we were one of the low bidders. It's just how it was. We worked out of our house. I had never seen an HVAC company that had made money, or a plumbing company that had made money. My uncle owns a plumbing company, and I've never seen that, any wealth really come from the industry until I went over and worked for this other company. And then later, come to find out, I landed my job at the most expensive HVAC company in town, and I mean by a lot. They were 15% higher than anybody close to them, and we had some other higher price competitors in the area. So I really cut my teeth the right way in sales in this industry. I had to learn right away how to sell myself, to sell my company, and sell the difference between a good install and what my father and I used to, sell. And fortunately, I found a man by the name of Charlie Greer, who later became a mentor in my life. I locked onto his system. He introduced me to Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, and all those guys. I'm sure you've heard of them. But after meeting him, Charlie Greer taught me, fast forward 3.5 years, I'd done $4 million in sales. So I was thinking pretty big of myself at the time, because I came from this little town, called Fenton in Michigan, and it's a small town, and we're not around big cities. I didn't know anybody else that was selling over $1 million a year. So I got bored, and believe it or not, I'm making well over $100,000 a year, and I'm bored. I get easily bored. So I started interviewing for car sales jobs, and nobody wanted to hire me. They're afraid that I wouldn't make as much money in car sales as I did in HVAC, and they were afraid I'd quit. So I was tired of the cold. One day I just decided, to heck with it, I'm going to Florida. So I called Charlie Greer, and he made a telephone call, and in 5 minutes I had a company that wanted me, flew me down, gave me a signing bonus to come down, and we moved down to Florida. When I got to, the reason I went down to Florida is because I found other guys to compete with, other guys that were selling over $1 million a year. So that was exciting to me. Holy cow, there are people that are doing more than me. Let me go out and compete with them. Well, the day that I moved down there, the guy I moved to compete with ended up taking a job for a company in Tampa Bay. So I had nobody to compete with. Here I was training the crews. So 8 months later, that company out of Tampa poached me as well. And I moved up to Tampa Bay. Now, there's a lesson in this for you guys out there that are trying to grow. This company took me from this other company. I'm selling over $1 million a year, and they made a very small 5-figure investment, the smallest 5-figure investment you can make. Let's put it that way. And I moved and signed a contract with them. They had golden handcuffs on me, and I went to work immediately building a sales team for them. I talk to my clients right now. Poaching's a bad word for a lot of people, right? Because you've been poached. But that is the fastest way to grow a company if you've got leads. Go out there and pay somebody to come to work for your company. Salespeople, good salespeople, usually spend their money. And it's amazing how little it takes to actually bring $1 million+ producer onto your staff. So take that little nugget with you. It's very, very effective. So the company I worked with in Tampa Bay was an Airtime 500 company. Hopefully you guys have heard of that. A big consulting company. And man, did I learn a lot there. That was where I learned that you could become rich in the HVAC and plumbing world. I mean, rich. Because I saw rich people. I saw people at dinners buying $1,000 bottles of wine over and over and over again for the table. It was crazy. So I ended up going there as a sales trainer, became the director of sales a year later, and then a year and a half after that became the general manager. During that time, I was responsible for helping the business grow from $1.5 million to $8 million over a 3.5-year period of time, and I trained on a daily basis between 12 to 42 technicians every single morning. So I was hustling it. I mean, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. A lot of you out there feel me. You know what I'm talking about. Along this time, I told the owners that I was considering starting my own business, and I gave them a timeline. And I was very, very clear about my timeline. It was going to be at least 1.5 years before I started my business. And I decided to go take the contracting exam, the test, without the books or anything, just to go see what was on it. And I did not plan on passing the test. So I go to the testing facility, I sit down all day, I take this test, and lo and behold, I accidentally passed this test. I passed the contractor's exam, I passed the law, I passed it all. And I walk out of there stunned, just can't believe it. Well, imagine my dismay when 2-3 weeks later the boss finds out that I passed my exam. I don't know how he did because I didn't have my license. But next thing you know, bam, I'm fired. I'm out on my butt. And I told him, listen, guys, I'm not ready to start my business. I've been paying off all my bills. I don't have any money in the bank. And on top of that, I just had a 5-week-old baby boy. I just signed a new lease. I was planning on staying there and helping them continue to build this company. And on top of that, my wife had just had major surgery with the baby. I had a non-compete that was a 50-mile non-compete. I mean, I'm like, holy cow, my world is rocked. And I don't know what to do. I don't want to go to work for another HVAC company because, you know, we just built this from $1.5 million to $8 million in 3.5 years. And frankly, I'd learned a lot of great stuff in the meantime, and I didn't want to have to start over retraining another contractor who was a year and, you know, $1 million, $2 million guy. It might sound arrogant, but I was like, just too much work. And I said, you know, if I'm going to do that for somebody else, I might as well just buckle down and figure out how to do this myself. And fortunately, I had been doing a radio show for the company that I was with, a 1-hour-long radio show where I'd get on with somebody else and me, and we would just BS about air conditioning for, you know, an hour or so. But throughout that time, I started to develop tactics, strategies, things that would work that would help to get the phone to ring. So I started pulling in, you know, 10, 12 customers a week with this show, and they were happy as a pig in poop. I mean, they're excited. Not only are we branding now, but we've got a call to action. We're bringing in leads. So that's what I had been doing the 2 years prior. So now I'm fired. I got $100 between 4 bank accounts. This is no joke. $100 between 4 bank accounts. I'm paying off all my bills, right? Every week that comes in, I'm feeling so good.
Salespeople don't save that money, right? That's what you're saying.
No, oh no. I'm driving home. I've got a 20-minute drive home, and I'm trying to decide what am I going to tell my wife. So I walk through the door, and there's my beautiful wife nursing my newborn son. And I looked at her, and I said, "We're moving to Fort Myers." And she said, "What?" I said, "We're moving back to Fort Myers." I said, "I was fired." And she said, "How could they do that to you?" She says, "We've got a baby. We just signed a 12-month lease. We're planning on being here." And I said, "Babe, it doesn't matter. They said my services are no longer needed. I couldn't convince them to keep me. I showed them that I found $100. And they said, we're just not going to take the risk." So I said, "We're all in." And she looked at me. Within 2 seconds, she said, "Okay." And I think it was that okay when I said, we're all in. I think that's really what gave me the last bit of confidence I needed to go out there and do what I had to do. So I said to my wife, "Honey, I need you to go online, apply for as many credit cards as you can get. I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go down to the dealership right now and buy 2 trucks before the banks realize that I don't have a job."
Nice.
So I figured I could get enough money on credit cards to hopefully live for the next month or 2 or 3 until I got my license, because getting your license is not necessarily easy if you don't have a professional do it. I found that out the hard way. I went 3 months almost without any money coming in, and so I lived on credit cards. But there is a little moral here. When I committed, I took massive action. And if any of you out there follow Grant Cardone's, some of you like him, some of you don't, I'm sure, but they talk about massive action, taking massive action in your business. Taking massive action is what you're going to have an opportunity to do today, tomorrow, the next day, every day that you get up, and that's going to be the difference between you rising to the top or staying with the rest of the people and just complaining about things for the rest of your life. So let's talk about the odds. My odds, I had 3 things that were going in my favor. Number 1, I had great credit, right? Because I was paying off all my debt. That was why I didn't have any money. I was a sales trainer. I knew that I could train salespeople and that I was a good salesman. And I was a radio show talk host, a talk show radio host. I knew how to make the telephone ring. So I knew that if I could make the telephone ring, I could at least go out and make the sales for now. And that I had enough credit to buy a truck or 2. So I said, okay, so there's the odds. That's what's in my favor. And then I look at the risks, and I'm like, I could go broke. But how much broker can you be? Then, $100 between 4 bank accounts. I was broke, but I guess at the time, it didn't seem like I had that much to lose because I knew how to sell. And then I was starting a family simultaneously. Like 3-4 years later, Charlie Greer said to me, "Gene, you realize that you've just done like the 2 most stressful things that you can pretty much do in life. You've gotten married, you've had a kid, and you started a business at the exact same time that you had a kid. Those 2 things are like top of the list." I didn't realize it, but he was right. But it's made me a much stronger person today. So you combine those 2. There was a lot of risk. There really was. But the good news is that it worked. We committed. We took that massive action. And the very first radio show that I ran, it was a back-to-back 2-hour show, hour to hour. We generated 27 leads, 27 requests for maintenance on customers' air conditioning systems. And we had an amazing offer, and I'm going to tell you about that just a little bit later. It was one of the keys. So fast forward a little bit, 18 months later, I paid off. I think we took out, it was over 20 credit cards. Over 20 credit cards. It was over $70,000 in debt once we added the trucks.
Wow.
But we ended up adding, at that point, 18 months later, we were 5 trucks strong. We added 1 truck every 3 months for 5 years.
Amazing.
And all of that was based on the success of our radio shows. All of it. I did maybe a combined total of $50,000, $60,000 worth of advertising and other things over the 6-year period. Maybe. But so here were some of the keys. All right. The keys for when you're generating 1,000 or 2,000 new customers a year, I just I cannot tell you this too much. This is the common denominator I see when I travel across the country. Daily communications, daily sales training. Guys, we trained 5 days a week. 5 days a week for the first 4.5 years, until my guys had finally, I mean, some of the guys that had been there, that were core guys, they're like, Gene, let us go to 4 days a week. Let us do some of the training. Let us train these guys. Let's just cut back a little bit. And we cut back to 4 days a week. But when I grew the other company, it was 5 days a week. We were in there every single day for an hour in the morning, role-playing. And was it mandatory? No. But if you didn't come, guess what? You didn't make it very long because you weren't selling. You weren't succeeding. Let's face it. Guys that turn wrenches don't typically have the sales technique, the sales knowledge, the sales acumen that they need to. So I knew that I needed to constantly be training these guys on what to say, and we would role play, and they had pre-planned presentations that they would have to role play in front of the room, word for word. I mean, this is the boiler room. You know, we're nice to you and everything in the boiler room, but there's nerves, serious nerves. So, but you get over that so quickly, and my guys ended up being bulletproof before long. Throughout the time that I was in business, I spent $1.3 million of my own money on these radio shows, on these radio spots, and it led to over $15 million in revenue while we were in business.
Not too shabby.
No, it was, and here's the ticket. Here's what people don't know. Over 12 million of that was UV lights and capacitors and hard starts and surge protectors and stuff. We didn't even sell air conditioners for the first 2 years I was in business. Didn't even sell air conditioners. And the last year, we only did $1 million in replacements. So that's all service revenue, guys. I mean, all service revenue. And you know it's higher GP. And if we had tried, man, if we had ever tried to sell equipment, we just sold equipment as a necessity whenever it broke. We never had a company that went out and really chased the replacement. So I know that a lot of you guys are out there just shaking your heads on that one. So look, at the end of the day, if you end up implementing some of the things that I'm going to show you, you're going to have more leads, guys. You're going to have more sales than you could ever want. You're not going to have to worry about not having enough leads or experimenting or wasting money on things that don't work. I mean, just think about what would it be like if I didn't have to worry about the weather? If I didn't have to worry about, is it going to get hot enough? Is it going to get cold enough? Will we have snow? Am I going to have service calls? Am I going to be able to pay the bills? Forget all that. What I'm going to show you works every single week. All right? It's consistent. Doesn't matter what the weather's doing. When I get on the radio and I give my spiel, my pitch, the phones ring. My business was weatherproof. Absolutely amazing. I couldn't have done it without this. And then I want you to think of, as we go by, and we go through this, I want you to think about how your life might be different if you were able to generate 1,000 new customers a month, 2,000 new customers a month. No, sorry, not 2,000 or 1,000. 1,000 or 2,000 a year. 1,000 or 100 or 200 a month. I mean, this is the potential here. Let's talk about the results and the proof. First, there's my air conditioning company. This is all I did. All I did was radio marketing, 1 hour infomercials. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. We were the top 100 fastest growing contractors in America. We were actually 59th place, 59th fastest growing construction company.
Wow.
In all industries, all trades in construction, 59th fastest growing company in the country. And you know the other stuff. Let's talk about one of our clients. I was given permission to actually share the name of the company today. In 2015, their revenues were $600,000. They partnered with me. They called me in December. And they got on our fast track program, which is not the full training package. There is a full training package where I actually come out and train your technicians. But they just went with the fast track, the cheapest way to go. And 2016, now, today, they're pacing at over $3 million.
Unbelievable.
I talked to the owner, Eric, the other day, and he said it was June 7th. They said they'd already done over $100,000. Guys, that's 2 months' revenue. I mean, no, sorry, yeah, that's 2 months' revenue from the prior year in the first week of June. I mean, nuts. And their lead flows, and I told them this was what it was going to be. We can tell you how many leads are going to come in. His lead flows between 25 to 50 leads per week. We have had 1 week, I think we were at 21, and the other week we were at 55. But this is the wave pattern. This is what we see. 25 to 50 leads per week consistently year-round. Can you imagine? Can you imagine that for your business? Like, I mean, this is something you can build a foundation on. It's something you can build a business around it. There are companies that are popping up all over the country that are using this system to start because it's a foundational system. We helped launch Benjamin Franklin Las Vegas last, what was it, not Easter, Thanksgiving. The owner's a friend of mine now, worked a little bit with him in his 1 hours out in Arizona, and he said, hey, I've got this Vegas branch we're launching. How about you be a part of the launch? So we were privileged enough to be able to partner with them. And they're getting somewhere between 15 to 25 leads per weekend, depending on the week. And we've sold 18 markets so far. There are 18 markets around the country out of 114 markets that we have designated that we will go into that are sold, that are functioning.
So this process works in plumbing and HVAC.
Oh yeah, well I should probably go back to that. The owner of this Benjamin Franklin, I only did this for HVAC, and I had never done it for plumbing, and I just kept getting plumber after plumber after plumber. I go, come on, Gene, man, you got to do a plumbing show. Now the Sparkies are coming at me. Electricians are asking for a show. So my friend, I said, yeah, I'll create a show for you. You're willing to take the risk. I'm willing to go ahead and do the writing, put in the time. I locked myself in my office for a little over a week. No distractions, no cell phones, no Facebook, none of that stuff. And I had a conversation with my mentor, Charlie Greer, about plumbing, and rapped with him for about an hour and a half. And then that next week, I just cranked it out. I had 3 or 4 different drafts. We launched it, and boom! I mean, it was just an immediate success. It was every bit as good, if not better, than my HVAC show.
Nice.
And that plumbing show, it focuses on water treatment. It focuses on all of the draining your water heater, all the things we would do in a maintenance and inspection, but we really, really focus on water quality. Should we stop and take a question or two if we have any, Josh?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Any questions so far? I think, at this point, Gene shared a lot about his story, his background, kind of the success that he experienced. I think a lot of this is great foundational stuff. So we do want to keep it interactive. If anyone has any questions, post them in the question box. Otherwise, we'll keep going. I think people are excited.
And you can write your question as we keep going too. We'll just keep looking for it.
Yep.
So let's just move on while we're waiting for anybody if they do have a question. So look, guys, the results that we're getting are not typical, right? They're not typical, and just because I make the phone ring doesn't mean that the results that I've experienced or the results that Blue Star or anybody else is experiencing are going to be typical for you. Fact of the matter is that it's a system, and you have to work it. All right, if you can't just go out there, generate leads, and then not invest in sales training. I don't get it when contractors, when we invest in marketing, but we don't invest in sales training. I mean, it's just like driving around with a hole in your gas tank. I mean, you're not going to ever get rich that way. And I don't know about you, but when I wake up in the morning, I'm not coming to work, for any reason other than the fact that I enjoy making money at this. Period. I mean, we get out of bed to make money. So please understand that my results are not typical because the average person who gets training doesn't implement any of it. That's why sales trainers get to continue to sell you the same stuff over and over again because nobody applies it. It's the 80-20 rule, right? So you, as a business owner, will have to be that 20%. You will have to make sure that you are holding your people accountable for doing the things that the system tells us we have to do. And I'll share all of the stuff in the system with you, but you've got to make sure that your people turn in specific pieces of paperwork that you ask for every single day, or you don't pay them. things like that. I mean, people have to be held accountable. So that's how this system will work for you. So most people get 0 results, but I'm going to show you what's been working for me, what has worked for me. This is not a get-rich-quick approach, people. It's not for the people who are, wanting to build a home business, or people who are not willing to commit. You're going to have to commit. Okay.
So, Gene, there's a question here, and I think it's a good one, and they're asking whether the technicians are commissioned or performance pay. The guys that you were on your team as you built your company to the Inc. 5000.
My technicians were paid to go out and do the tune-up, but outside of being paid to do that tune-up a flat rate, they were commissioned.
Good. And I think John, he's going to be touching on that a little bit more as we go, but great question. And then Dino's asking... Oh, go ahead.
Performance pay is the only way that you're, in my opinion, it's the only way I've ever been able to get results out of people. Otherwise, guys just turn the wrench and then they sit back. You just never get, unless they have a piece of the action, they'll never, and a good piece of the action. You got to pay them well. Give them a carrot, man. And then in the mornings, you train them on what to say. That way they're not going out there being con artists, ripping people off. That's where commission people get in trouble. They just offer a big commission, and then they don't offer any training to go along with it. You got to train people how to make sales. Otherwise, they're forced into just going out there and making stuff up. And that's how a lot of people end up lying to customers, and that's how a lot of people get on 2020.
Yeah. Good point. And there's another question here from Dino. He's saying, what's your contact information? This is based on territories. Is my territory open? Dino, we'll follow up with you after you'll get all of Gene's contact information. But I'm sure that's a question a lot of you are going to have. And yes.
Cool. All right. So what are we going to cover? I'm going to break it down for you right now. Okay. So you're probably going to want to get your pens out and start taking some additional notes. First thing we're going to cover is the right strategy to get your foot in the door, and how you're going to bring in those additional sales. How you can drive more leads with radio in a weekend than you can via the internet in a month.
Is that a dig at me, Gene?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I'm just teasing.
And then, listen, we're going to cover a system to upsell and retain your customers, all right? Because, look, we all get in the door with these, discounted service call this or discounted tune-up that. Bottom line is that we cannot sell enough. We can't charge enough for a maintenance agreement in order to make a profit, let alone an initial tune-up make a profit. I mean, the federal government says, I think last time I checked, it's something like 57 cents a mile it costs just to drive a truck. So we're going to burn up all the fuel and everything. We'll burn up our special offer before the tech even gets in the door. So you have to have a system to upsell to, and upselling is not a bad word, okay? It's just doing a needs analysis. You go through the house, you find out what are the things that they need, what are the things they'll need in the near future, and then, hey, what are the things that would be nice to have, all right? That's a process for upselling. You put those 3 things in different categories on a piece of paper, and now you've got, a process. And we'll go over that with you as well. So starting with number 1, the right strategy for getting your foot in the door, and how we're doing it. Number 1, our strategy is to connect with a broad audience before they are in an emergency state. Okay, we all know that most of our customers, sorry about this, guys, most of our customers call us in a panic a lot of times, and so we've got to be Johnny on the spot. It's expensive to run a service business, all right? It's a little bit less expensive to run a business that's based on service that you can schedule, right? And the type of calls that we get from our radio shows are maintenance calls. So they're not people that have got an, oh my gosh, the house is burning down, you got to come right now, and if you don't, I'm going to trash you on the internet. No, they're people that are willing to wait for our service. Look, there are hundreds of thousands of homeowners in your area. If you're calling from an area, we normally work in areas that are 400,000 people and more. That's a lot of people, okay? And they are in need of your services, whether they realize it or not. A lot of them don't even know that they're in need of your services. And you can create that demand. You can get your foot in the door a lot faster and more consistently than waiting for them to look you up online. But you've got to get a message out there in front of them. So we utilize AM talk radio to do this. Right? Forgive me here. Bam. So the reason we use AM talk radio mostly, and we use some other forms of radio, is that those listeners are habitual. They come back over and over and over again. Okay? And when we use radio, we can stimulate interest in our services without it being an emergency. Now, guys, I'm not talking about 30 or 60-second spots. I'm talking about a 1 hour long spot. We're going to talk a little bit more about the 1 hour long spot, but it's either 30 or 60 minutes where we've got uninterrupted airtime, where we can tell a story, where we can paint a picture for the customer. All right? We can paint a picture of in their mind. And for HVAC, a lot of times we're talking about indoor air quality. We're talking about stimulating some sort of pain that they don't even know that they have, through getting them educated on what can grow in their system, maybe, about duct leakage and the negative effects on their health as far as that's concerned, and how it makes them, pay more money on energy bills. So we're talking about some education here. But we focus a lot on the indoor air quality because, again, it's a hot button for people. It makes them move. It makes them pick up the phone. And then on the plumbing maintenance water side, we're talking about maintenance, property damage. What happens when you've got those rubber hoses behind your washing machine and you come home and they're doing the happy dance and you're flooded out? We talk about what a technician should do on a maintenance while we're out there. So we paint this picture of what they should be getting, and most of the time from their existing service company, if they have one, they're not getting all this stuff from them. They're not getting somebody spending 75 to 90 minutes out there really combing through their system, making a list, being thorough. Okay. So once we have made the offer, we'll talk a little bit more about making the offer later. We want to make an irresistible offer. All right. We used to do a $189 maintenance for $29.95. That was like our staple go-to. $189 maintenance, $29.95. People loved it. But I got to back up just a little bit and let you know, when I started my business, the first 18 months, I did them for free. You say you must be crazy going out there and doing them for free. Well, my average ticket was $1,032 without selling equipment. Think about that. Go out for free. They just want something for free, right? Remember that next time your technicians say that it was a bad lead, right? It's all them, dude. It is all about what these people owed me nothing when I got there. Not a thing. And they'd all look at me, this is free, right? Oh yeah, it's free. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I'm going to make a list of what's right with your system. If I find anything that's, should cause you any challenges in the future, you want me to share that with you? Yeah, absolutely. Bam, I'm off to the races. $1,032 at 65 to 70% gross margins. You do the math. Okay? So you have to have that process to upsell the customer once you're in the home, and upselling is not a bad thing. It is helping them get what they need and what they want. All right? As long as you're doing it the right way, as long as you're doing it ethically. And I'm gonna come back to this one, guys. You have got to train your technicians. You got to role play in the mornings. You got to do it. You don't have a choice. Just do it. And using this strategy, you can literally create customers out of thin air. Customers that had no desire to have a HVAC or plumbing contractor come out to their house yesterday. They're listening to this program and they're like, man, this guy sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I should probably give them a call. Absolutely amazing. And then we have people that listen for 2 years before they call. They tune in every single week. Absolutely crazy. I've been listening to you guys for 2 years. What do you think that call's like when the technician goes out? You think there's some trust built? Just think about it. Just think about that trust. What if they only listen for 2 weeks? What if they only listen to one show? They call because there's trust built up there, guys. So this show, it tears down the walls that us as contractors a lot of times have got to hurdle in order to get new business through the door. All right?
So I thought what was really cool about Secret One, Gene, is it kind of represents a paradigm shift from just saying, okay, we're going to wait for the AC to break or wait for the plumbing to break and get those people to call us, to let's insert ourselves and create demand and position a problem in the mind of our customers' eyes so that they say, oh man, wait, what this guy's talking about, I might have that issue with my water, I might have that issue with my HVAC system, and generate calls out of thin air instead of waiting for them to be in an emergency state. What you said, I thought that was a powerful insight from Secret One. Any questions on this, guys? You know, the whole concept of creating a foot in the door as opposed to just waiting for the customer to have an urgent need.
A lot of people talk about educating the customer. I hate that word. I hate the word educating. I prefer what my mentor says, and that's you have to enlighten them, right? Educating seems to me like talking at a customer, but I enlighten them through education by asking them questions. Did you know this? Did you know that? And they don't turn me off like Charlie Brown's teacher. You know what I mean?
Nice.
Should we move on?
Yeah, let's dive into the next section.
Secret number 2, guys, you can actually drive more leads with radio in a weekend than you can via the internet in a month. It really, really, truly is a fact. Most plumbing and HVAC business owners like myself, before this, they think that radio is extremely expensive and it won't drive an ROI. And guys, I've got to tell you, you're right in 99% of the instances. You remember earlier I said I almost went broke as an HVAC contractor. It was because of a bad radio deal. I'm doing so great, doing my block programs, doing these radio shows, and then I get sold by my radio advertiser a $30,000 package for 30 and 60-second spots. They're telling me this is going to kick butt too, right? That was for a 3-month campaign, 30 grand, 10 grand a month. I mean, I'm already making money. I'm like, heck, radio's working. Boy, did I run into a brick wall on that one. I mean, I got slaughtered. I barely made it out with my shirt. And at a point, I had to tell the radio company, they didn't want to give me any more airtime. I said, I can't pay you off unless you give me more airtime. You know, I had to buy another show just to pay off that horrible, miserable investment. So if you've used 30 or 60-second spots, I get it, right? I get free radio spots. I get free 15, 30-second infomercials or 30 to 15-second commercials when I buy my infomercials. So all the stuff that everybody else is out there paying for, I buy something different, and I negotiate some of those in for free. And I do actually make some of those perform, but nothing like what my radio infomercials do. So, look, guys, if you're out there, you're skeptical about radio, I get it. I've been there, done that. I got my butt handed to me too. No need for us to all dwell on it anymore. Let's move past it and show you something that actually works. 60-minute infomercials. Could be 30, but most of them are 60s. It is a way to generate instant results. The very first time that I get on the radio, doesn't matter what city it is, doesn't matter where it is, the very first time I get on radio, the very first time I give the telephone number out, we get calls because I'm using a proven script. And then think about this. I've got one city, they got 55 new customers in 54 minutes. 54-minute radio show. Think about that efficiency for a minute. Just think about it. 55. I mean, if to get 55 calls, don't you usually have to wait all week or all month to do that? And then your CSR, whoever it is, they're pounding out data entry stuff, and then the phone rings, and they've got to switch into CSR, super salesperson mode, and book that appointment because all they saw was the number on a card, and now they want you to do some explaining. When describe your service. I've already described the service when they're calling in, and most of the time I'm limiting the offer, so they're racing to the phone, trying to be one of the first 5 or 6 or 7 people that actually get the offer that I'm giving out. Think about how efficient that is to be able to get all your calls right now. Now, it creates a staffing problem, right? But there are problems to every solution. And there's not one that we ran into that we weren't able to get past. But think about that, 55 customers in 54 minutes. Did you ever think that was even possible? The guy that I did that for, I told him I was going to get him somewhere between 25 to 50 calls a week, and he was like, believe it when I see it. And that was the very first show, 55 calls. Very first time. Think about that, guys. Launching an advertising campaign, and in the very first hour, getting that many customers. These radio programs, the difference between the 60 and the 30-second spots is that they give us an opportunity to create or establish a need that didn't currently exist, and then drive that need, continue to pound it. You can't do that in a 60-second spot. You got a limited amount of time. You're talking like the Micro Machine Man to try to get your message out. Right on a 60-minute spot, I can afford some silence. I can afford to make a point and then let it sink in for a customer. You get it? Mm. Types of stations that we use. Number one in my book is conservative talk radio. Think about it. The Rush Limbaugh stations, the Glenn Becks, the Sean Hannity's. That's a loyal listening and a loyal following. And think about those people. What do you think about conservative people? Now, if you're liberal, it's fine, but think about what I'm saying here. Conservative talk radio typically draws people with more money, right? We want that middle to upper income, 35 to 65, middle to upper income, and that's what we're targeting there with conservative talk radio. Sports radio, country works well, and Christian talk also works for this type of advertising. And then you've got to figure out, listen, here's part of the secret, figuring out what to say. You want to talk about maintenance. You want to talk about how to make it last longer, right? You want to talk about saving them money by avoiding replacements and avoiding having a coil go out on them, or some of the things that, if a starter goes out or a contactor goes out, that can take out a compressor. You could talk about that. You could talk about inspecting heat exchangers. You want to talk about common pitfalls. The fact that it's not nice, but the fact of the matter is that number one and number two trades being taught in the prisons today, and have been taught for quite a while now. I mean, it's plumbing and air conditioning. So why not shine a light on that? Some people have got mixed opinions about it, but I'll tell you what, it makes the phone ring, regardless of what you think about it. Talk about indoor air quality concerns. Talk about molds, okay? Talk about allergens. Talk about what they do to the body. Talk about allergens and antihistamines and medicines that you've got to take in order to combat those. Talk about the side effects of those. Talk about the appearance of your technician, what it should look like when they roll up in front of the house and they're moving, warehouse on wheels. How it's going to be marked and labeled, and they're going to be clean cut, and they're going to show up in uniform, the shoe covers, and I mean the whole spiel, right? You want to get all that out there. What they should expect when the guy shows up. Let them know that you're going to park in the street, not in the driveway. You're going to start the call off just by respecting their property and respecting them. And then have certain times throughout the show where you stop and you give them an opportunity to become a member of the family. Let them know they can go out and play yellow page roulette if they want, but to try to find all the things that you've been promising them on the air. But if they want to save a little bit of time and save some money, they can call right now. So that's the guts, if you will, of Secret 2. But it also includes some of the other steps. How do you buy the media, right? How do you negotiate good rates and stuff? And really the only thing I can tell people on this is to ask for the discount. When they give you a number, if they ask you for a budget, tell them there is no budget right now. We haven't even formed a budget. We're just looking to figure out what it's going to cost us to get online, and we'll be able to make a decision very quickly. And ask for a discount, and then ask for another one, and then ask for another one after that. Just keep asking for discounts until you get enough practice under your belt, enough time goes by to where you know what you should pay for a 1-hour slot in in your area. For me, I know what I should pay for a 1-hour slot in a city that's got 700,000 people. It's just I've got a formula in my head. I know based on experience. And
so they're always going to kind of highball you, right? No matter what they say, you got to continue to beat them up till you get to a price that makes sense.
Yeah, I overpaid for way too much radio in the first 2 or 3 years of my career. Overpaid big. I mean, to a point where when I finished, I was literally, now there were some things with the economy and everything that went. It's something that I haven't mentioned is that I started all this the moment that the economy crashed. I mean, seven months into my business was when we had the big crash, and this strategy launched me through the entire recession.
Nice.
We grew every single day through the recession, every day. So I forgot to mention that. But as far as negotiating is concerned, once you've learned the dance with the radio stations, get yourself a buyer, and then you can have the buyer handle a lot of the back and forth for you if you want. But understand that that's going to cost you 10 to 15% on top of, whatever it is the radio station gives them. And that's just industry standard. Sometimes it helps to have those guys, though. You don't have to be the bad guy. And then look, get ready, because once the time is set, once you've got your script and everything down, once you are, you've practiced it and everything, and you go on air, be ready for the calls that come in. When my shows run, I let people know exactly how many people they want to have manning the telephone that day. And then you also want to make sure that you record everything that comes in from that telephone number. You want to have a resource where you can go back and listen to those recordings, because what happens, I mean, if I give out a number in Dallas, I could get 10 telephone calls right now, instantly, right now. Think about that. You've got to have a strategy to handle all those calls. Get on and off the phone in 30 seconds. If the phone's still ringing, get on and off. My guy at the studio used to just take my name, their name, their city, and their telephone number. Name, city, telephone number, and then I would go back to my office after my show, and I would pound the phones for 6 to 7 hours, and I would call them. Here's another key: call them 6 to 7 times that first day, once an hour on anything that gets missed, anything that doesn't get booked. Call them. Eventually, I promise you, they might get annoyed, but they'll pick up that phone. They're just ignoring you for right now. You have to be persistent. 78% of salespeople don't even follow up. I mean, it's insane. Your first 48 hours after you get the telephone call determines your destiny, determines the destiny of your business. I don't know if any of you out there have seen the first 48 on the Crime Channel, but the premise of the show is that if a detective doesn't get a good lead, a good solid lead within the first 48 hours in a homicide, they never solve the case. Or it's rare that they solve the case. I would tell you that I stimulate emotions on these radio shows that make people call. And if you're getting people to call, it's because you've stimulated an emotion. And that emotion goes away pretty quickly. All right? So you want to get right on that lead. If you missed it, if something happened, follow up. The first 48 hours is key. It's harder and harder to get them booked every single day that goes by. All right? So that is huge. That ends up kind of bringing us to the end of the second secret. I know that was a big, long, multiple secrets inside of there.
Well, I think that was a lot of powerful insights there. And it all comes down to creating the message, which is you got to think it through, choosing the radio stations you're going to be on, negotiating with those stations to make sure you don't overpay. If you take the first price, you're gonna get gouged, and then making sure you're ready to handle the calls when they come in. So powerful stuff there. A couple questions did come in. I don't know, Gene, do we have time for a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got time.
So we got a question here from Dino, and he's asking, do you write the scripts for these shows? How often do these shows happen?
Yes, I write the scripts for the shows, and the shows air weekly. The block programming that we're talking about, the 1 hour spots, it's rare to find an advertiser that will sell you less than 13 weeks. In the bigger cities where this advertising is in demand, they can demand 52-week contracts occasionally. It's not that common, but and we can usually fight against it. Obviously, we've got all the experience negotiating. We'll go, come on, guys, seriously, give us a break, So we can play that bad guy.
So Dino, I mean, obviously, Gene as a programmer, he can write the script for you, he can record it, he can do all of that. Or just using some of the insights he shared here, you can write your own script, right, and go to the studio and have it recorded either
Absolutely.
on your own. But great question. Another question someone asked, and I'm not sure if this is on a market-by-market basis, but someone asks, how much do you typically pay for an hour of radio advertising time?
I have places where I pay $65 an hour.
Oh wow!
And then I have places that charge $5,000 an hour. It depends on the population. It depends on the reach of the station. It depends on how in demand it is. But what you can be sure of is that whatever number they give me, I'm going to work to get it down as much as possible.
Great, good questions, guys. Keep them coming. This is what we want. Kind of, if you're having the question in your mind, there's probably others that have that same question. What I'm seeing here from, it looks like Mel, is asking, how does the election cycle impact radio costs? So something about all of the election ads, they're buying up the radio time. Does that impact the cost?
Well, I would say that I have not seen a major impact on my business as far as that's concerned. No, but I think a lot of that is because we know how to buy radio. I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been doing these radio shows for 10 years. I know how to buy it. I just know what it's worth. And yeah, there is more demand right now, but if you know how to buy it, you're not going to get gouged. But the other great thing about the political cycle is that it is bringing more eyes to the radio stations. They're coming back more often. We have more opportunities to be in front of them to do branding and everything like that. So
you're right. Yeah, they're listening. They're listening to Fox. You know, they're listening to the radio and trying to hear what's going on.
There has never ever been a better time than right now.
Nice.
It really hasn't. It's never been a better time.
Okay, so another good question here from Craig, and Craig, thanks for joining us. I'm excited to have you on the call today. He's saying, if the infomercials run on the weekend, did you say that your staff your call center on the weekend to take the calls? So he's just concerned about how those calls get answered if you don't have a staff that's available on the weekends.
Yeah, nobody's going to love on your customers like your own people will. We did. Saturday was a normal work day for us. So I actually had an answering service because some of my shows ran early and my people were working, and you got overtime and you got all this other stuff, and really just happy employees is important, you know. So I had an answering service that would take the calls and immediately batch them over. So they'd get 3 or 4 pieces of information, batch them over to whoever was at home or wherever answering the phones or booking appointments, and they would call them immediately. So they'd get batches of like 4 or 5 customers every time I gave out the telephone numbers they'd have to call them. Now, I do recommend if you have the ability to staff the phones live and answer them live. But even if you don't have an answering service, I've got one in Virginia Beach. It's got 300 people under the roof, and they can actually book appointments. Again, sometimes you're talking to somebody who's really great, and then sometimes you're talking to Lurch.
Yeah.
From the Addams family, you know. So it can affect the success. It can affect your cost per lead.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions, and I know that we were kind of short on time, but I do want to try and get to these because they seem like really good questions. So thank you guys for putting these in here. Let's see. Ron's asking what time of day and what days of the week tend to perform best.
Saturday and Sundays is when this type of programming is available. During the week, these radio stations have got the Rush Limbaughs and the Glenn Becks and Sean Hannitys on them. It's rare to find weekday times. I have, but it's rare. And 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. is my preference.
Okay.
They'll sell you a block at 5 a.m., but I've not found a market where I really got a great return out of a 5 a.m. slot. Some 6 a.m.s work. And then even later on Saturday can work, but I try to stay between 7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Great. Great clarification. There's a lot here, guys. If we didn't get to it, I'll make sure that Gene sends you an email afterwards. But there's one I thought that was pretty good. So if this is a weekly show, are you like going to the studio every week and creating a new program, or how does that work?
Nope, not at all. I learned the hard way that going in and creating fresh content every week is not actually what pays the bills. There's a guy by the name of Larry Wingett that I always laugh about. Most people don't know him, but he's the world's only irritational speaker. Think about that for a minute. A worldly irritational speaker. What he says irritates you, but he just tells it like it is. He doesn't baby, he doesn't candy coat it at all. He's just factual. But Larry Winget says it's easier to get a new audience than it is to get a new speech. Let that one sink in for a minute. It's get a speech that people want to hear. You can sell it over and over and over again. That speech keeps selling. But you can, there are some books that don't sell, some speeches that don't sell, and I did a lot of speeches that didn't sell. When I listened to the radio stations, I messed up because they were telling me get some fresh content, get some fresh content. No, I needed content that worked. And to prove my point, I actually ran the same show on one of my stations. It was an ESPN station, Saturday and Sunday, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. for 5 years. I ran the same show every single time for 5 years. It's 500 times I ran that show.
Wow.
And it produced every single weekend. I couldn't believe it. And it was a patched together show, believe it or not, because I patched the telephone numbers into it, and you could clearly tell it was a different recording.
That's great
but
clarification.
I was so blown out. I was just so blown away by it, I didn't want to change it.
If it works, and so guys, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to recreate the radio program every time. The critical factor is, does it perform well? I think is what Gene's saying. Right. And if it performs well, and you've got a proven winner, then you can run that one on perpetual launch, basically from one week to the next, because there's so many people that are tuning in at different frequencies.
Yep, I created that show, and then once I saw it was working on that station, I just threw that show on every station I was on.
Very cool. All right, so 2 more questions. I know I said we were going to stop, but there's just so many coming in. I want to make sure that they get answered. So Richard, thanks for joining us. Richard's asking, could this potentially work in a small city of like 100,000 or so people?
No.
Okay. What will be the kind of the population threshold that does work?
I don't like to go into cities that are under 400,000 people.
Okay.
I have been convinced to do so by 2 or 3 contractors, and I fought it tooth and nail every time, and the results were just not acceptable in my eyes. One, believe it or not, was out in Arizona, and it was so sparsely populated, and I told my friend, who's a friend now, I said, I don't think we should do this, man. He's like, oh, come on, Gene, let's do it. I'm like, I don't think we should do it, man. He's like, let's do it. And 4 weeks into it, I was like, dude, we got to cancel this. We got to cancel this. We got to get out of this. This is not working. And so, yeah, I don't like to go into areas. I would say that, you'd have to twist my arm really hard to go into an area that was smaller than 300,000 people.
Okay, good. That's great insight, guys. Listen, make sure you're in a DMA that supports this type of program. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't even know how many people are in their area. Best thing to do is to go to krgspec.com. That's KRG spec, S-P-E-C, spec.com. And that is a website that is run by Katz Media Group. They own Clear Channel and iHeartMedia and everything. And if you click on the button Markets and then click your city in the scroll down, it'll tell you just how many people are in the city and the DMA, MSA.
So Susan had a follow-up question to this, and we're going to stop with this one. Thank you guys for the great questions. We do definitely need to move on. So Susan's saying, when you say 400,000 people or 300,000 people, are you referring to the city, the metro, the DMA, or the service area?
The metro.
Okay.
MSA. Whichever one's smaller. There's an MSA and a DMA. I think the DMA is the bigger one. Mm-hmm. The MSA is what I'm looking at.
Okay, good. Great questions, guys. I really appreciate your interaction. I'm glad you're asking questions because it's helping everybody. But we definitely need to move on. We'll make sure we leave time at the end to answer any other questions that we haven't addressed yet.
Cool. Sounds great. Secret number 3. All right. You've got to have a system, guys, to upsell and retain the customer. We've talked about this before. And you've got to have a maintenance agreement program. I don't get it when somebody hires me to generate 1,000 or 2,000 new customers a year, and they don't have a maintenance agreement program. I just don't get it. You want to lock those people back in for 2 more appointments so that you don't have to pay them, you know, to come out again, essentially. You're going to have to pay to market that customer again. It's just insanity. So let's talk about how we get service calls and everything on not service calls, but maintenance agreements every time, almost every time. My guys with my service agreement program, we're closing consistently between 70 to 80% of these customers on maintenance agreements. But it was mandatory. This doesn't say this. I'm going to say the word mandatory, but it was mandatory for my technicians to make a what we called a paper towel close on every single call. It was just a lined sheet of paper that had 3 things on it. One, the first thing were the things that were mandatory for the customer to do. If we had a capacitor that was below par, in our eyes, that was mandatory that they take care of that. Service maintenance agreements, in our eyes, were mandatory. That went on our mandatory list. If they had a contactor that was burnt and pitted, that was a mandatory thing. Anything that was going to fail on them, possibly before we got on that next visit, or anything that was a major health concern, ended up in the mandatory field. So that's the first category. Right underneath that, we would do things that are going to need to be done in the near future, and then underneath that, we would list all the stuff that would just be nice to have, the creature comforts, the health stuff. You know, it might be a HEPA filtration system. But what we're doing here is giving the customer something to say no to. All right, they're gonna buy the mandatory stuff. Hopefully, they get some of the stuff that they're gonna need in the future just to get it out of the way. And then you'd be surprised if you don't quote it, you don't get it, guys. If you don't share with the customer, you don't get it. I can't tell you how many times I made a $10,000 list, and they're like, "You take credit cards?" And there's not even an air conditioner on there. I'm like, heck yeah, we take credit cards. If you set the meeting up correctly, and you show them where they're bleeding, or that you show them where they're hurting, they might not even know where they're hurting, but if you show it to them and you present them with these multiple options, you can convert a $59 sale into a $50,000 sale, guys. I had one sale that converted to $123,651. Think about that, 123 grand.
That pays for some radio advertising.
Yeah, it will, won't it? Absolutely nuts. And you convert one-time buyers into multiple buyers, and you get referrals from it too. So you've got to have a system to upsell and retain your customers. You got to use maintenance agreements. As far as maintenance agreements are concerned, look, you can't charge enough for an agreement to be profitable. So get over the price of the maintenance agreement. It'd be better for you to give them a free agreement than to pay $100 to $150 for 2 more leads for 2 more appointments. If you've got to give them the agreement, give it to them. Some people won't agree with me on there, but you've got to make it like almost like they're getting such a good deal that they're taking advantage of you, but you know it. All right? They know it that you know it. And see, here's one of the keys. I doubled my maintenance agreement base in 14 months using the maintenance agreement program that I had, and it was a discounted program, but I made my program so irresistible that my techs actually thought that anybody that didn't sign up was a fool. Now, there's a nugget there.
That's powerful.
Your technicians are so sold they think people are crazy for not doing it. How'd you like that kind of buy-in in your business? What do you think would happen to your maintenance agreements if your technicians felt like people were fools for not getting them? Yeah. If they were taking advantage of you even. Take advantage of me all day long if I've got a $1,032 average ticket with no equipment sales on it. I hope this is connecting. Secret number 3, learn about brain science and how it affects your future, guys. I can't get into this. It's too long. But do some research on dendrites and affirmations and what they are. It will change the way you're thinking, and it'll help you to guide your people to think differently. I wish we could spend about 30 minutes on this. I spend time on this in my 2-day classes when a client has us come out for the 2-day. But this is absolutely life-changing. We change a lot of lives with this. Role play with your technicians, or have them role play with each other. And listen, some people go, "I'm not using that script." fine. You don't have to use it when you go out in the field, but you are required to memorize it. That was my deal with my technicians. You don't have to use it, but you must memorize it. And what happened is once they memorized it, they became comfortable with it. It started sounding like them. And guess what? They realized it worked a whole lot better than what they were doing, going out there and winging it. So I require the memorization. They have to be able to do it word for word from memory, and then it becomes theirs. They start using their own tone, their own inflection. They get really relaxed. I have taken guys that were making $40,000 a year in installation and made them $250,000 a year as selling techs. I've got guys that are making $300,000 a year that I've trained, that I brought up fresh out, not even in this business. You follow the process, follow the Lead Ninja system, follow the scripts and stuff that I have. Just memorize them. And then, listen, I would require my guys to show proof that they did that 3-tiered list, the paper towel close. This is key, guys. This is where you're holding your people accountable. If I can get you nothing else out of this secret number 3, it's accountability. My guys had to turn that paper in. It was called a paper towel close. It had all the things that were supposed to be listed on the job, or I mean all the things that they recommended for the customer. And I knew based on that paperwork why they didn't have good sales or why they had great sales. You can see it in their paperwork, guys. And my technicians, sometimes they would say, hey, I didn't do a paper towel close for that one. Well, guess what? Until you turn in a paper towel close, you're not getting paid. And they go, well, I didn't do one. I'm like, okay, well, then go do one. I would allow them to make the paper towel close up again and turn it in and get paid for it, but they had to do it. So what did that do? Eventually they realized, Gene's going to make me do this regardless. I might as well do it. They start using it. Next thing you know, bam, they're making more sales, and their life has changed. All right? Use a pre-planned sales and communication presentation. Use a pre-planned presentation, guys. This is scripting again. Hate the S word, but it just is. No training, no success, guys. You don't train, you don't get success. So, is everybody enjoying this so far?
Great
Anybody?
stuff.
Everybody doing good? Okay. Cool. So far we've covered the strategy, right? Reaching out to an audience that doesn't even know that they have needs, establishing those needs, and driving those needs. We went over the fact that you can actually generate tons of leads using radio and commercials, even more than some cases you can do online, and then how to create repeat buyers and lower marketing costs by getting the maintenance agreement right. You got to get the maintenance agreement right. So who out there is ready to take it to the next level? Huh? All you've got to do in the Q&A box is put "I'm ready," and somebody from my team or myself will reach out to you to help you if you want us to get the Lead Ninja system, get it working for you, get it done for you, period. So this is my pitch to you guys. If you want to spend all the time writing the scripts and doing all of that, by all means, God love you. Good luck. Have a blast. I spent a lot of money doing it, and it was not the easiest thing in the world that I've ever done. But it can be done. I'm proof that it can be done. You just got to test and measure. Test and measure. All right? We are all about helping you drive more leads and getting sales fast. I can have things up and running for most of my clients within 2 weeks if everything comes together properly. You are guaranteed not to waste time and money on things that don't work anymore when you're using the Lead Ninja system. And one of the reasons for that is that I don't get paid except for when the phone rings. So if I do everything for you, if I write those scripts for you, if I create the program and everything for you, and it doesn't work, remember, I don't get paid. It's not you don't get paid, I don't get paid. So what we do at Lead Ninja is we write the radio program for you, we record the program for you, we edit it for you, we select the radio stations, we hand you our proven system in a little package, a pretty little package, along with the big picture strategy. We give you the sales training that is working for technicians all over the country. It's all written out for you. I've got it in 2 forms written. One is short, one is long. I've got it in audio format for you, and all of my clients are getting the video as it comes out as well. 2-minute, 4-minute, 5-minute videos that your technicians can watch while they're in their trucks. Audio that they can listen to while they're in their trucks so they can hear the right tone, the right inflection. 3, how these are supposed to be delivered to the customer. We track all the results for our customers through our recorded software systems. You just get a login and password, and you can see everything in real time. You can check the calls, listen to the calls, listen to how your CSRs are doing from anywhere in the world, any device in the world. And all you have to do, once you tell us how many customers you want, is just pay the radio stations, pay for the media, which we negotiate for you. And then here's the best part. The way that Lead Ninja gets paid, we've got skin in the game. I remember people asking me for $100,000, $200,000 a year for marketing. I'd sit in these people's offices and I'd go, okay, you want me to spend $200,000 a year with you? What if it don't work, right? What if it don't work? That's all of our questions as contractors. What if it don't work? And they just kind of turned their head side, you know, they tilted their head a little bit to the left, shrugged their shoulders, and they didn't really have anything to say to me. I decided when I started this business, I knew the system worked. I was going to have skin in the game with my clients. So after a small initial investment to get the production and everything handled for you, I only charge you if and when the phone rings. Think of that. Think of an advertiser putting their money where their mouth is. Has anybody ever said to you, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. If the phone doesn't ring, you don't have to pay me. Well, that's what I'm telling you today. You don't have to pay me unless the phone rings. That's my deal. That's my deal, Josh.
It's a pretty powerful offer, and you know, it's really, if you're in the right size market, if you're the kind of company that's looking for growth and looking to take things to the next level, I think it's a no-brainer. A lot of you guys posted your names in here. I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm ready. That's awesome. I'll make sure that Gene and his team reach out to you right away. We had a little bit of a snafu with the request for appointments prior to the meeting. So if you could, you can go to leadninjasystem.com/contact us. I'm also going to put a link here as an answer to all of you guys, where if you go to this page, you can request an appointment with Gene.
For those of you who stuck around, we're gonna. All you've got to do is let us know, and we'll send you this slide presentation in PDF format so that you can use it as your blueprint.
So was this great stuff or what? I mean, Gene has opened the kimono. He really built his HVAC company from the ground up to making the Inc. 5000 list in less than 6 years, sold it for a nice profit, and he's basically showed you his strategy, which is different than probably what you've been exposed to in the past. It's something completely different. He's implemented this for plumbing companies. He's implemented this for HVAC companies. Again, it's not a great fit for everybody and in every market, but if you are the right fit, this to me seems like a no-brainer to look into and to check out. So I hope you got value from today's session. I really appreciate you guys investing your time. Gene and I, our true intent is to provide value, to give you ideas and strategies, and really empower you to increase your sales, grow your revenues, take your company to the next level. So hopefully you guys see that. And we do want to stick around for other questions. So if you have other questions for us, post them in the question box. Gene and I will hang out as long as necessary to make sure everybody's taken care of.
Thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate all your time. And best of luck in your businesses.
So
let me know if I can help you.
Mel has a question, and it's what percentage of the training is focused on sales and what percentage is focused on marketing?
The training that I provide?
Yeah.
It is sales.
Okay.
It's all sales.
It's all about how to answer the phones, book the calls, and then
this is the extent of the marketing training that I provide.
All right, so Jason's saying send us the slides. Absolutely. All of you guys that were on, you're going to get a, eventually it takes a little bit of time to get it all exported, but we'll get you guys a recording of the presentation so you can listen to it again. You're going to get the radio advertising blueprint since you stuck around throughout the course of the presentation, as well as the replay of the recording. So Bryce, thanks Gene, thanks Josh. Your team appreciates the presentation. Thanks Scott, really appreciate it. Frank's asking for the presentation. We'll get this to you. Rob says, not ready, but wants to watch the program again. Absolutely. Rob will make sure to get this out to you. Bryce asking for a call right away. We'll make sure that you're one of the first people that get called. Mel's got it. Tim wants the slides. Okay, so here's a specific question, and for those of you guys that are still on, stick around. There's probably some golden nuggets to be had in these last couple minutes. But Don's asking, what if your primary service a narrow area close to your shop, and want to receive, and would you wind up receiving calls outside your area?
Yes. Yeah, we can't control where the radio signals go. All we can do is pick weaker signals. The weaker the signals, the worse the results. So you do have to be able to reach out and touch people with this. You've got to be willing to drive a little bit.
Yep. So it's kind of a different strategy than maybe some of you have done in the past. Again, with a different strategy comes different tactics and maybe some different ways of running your operation. So that those
it's
are all
not focused. It's not focused geographically, but it is focused demographically.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So Dalton's saying, I'm interested in showing other people in the company that would definitely be open to this. Can I be sent the recording? Absolutely. We'll make sure you get the recording. Tim, we'll make sure you get called. Let's see, Brad. Yes, Brad, we will get you the slide deck ASAP. And we're still open for questions, so if you have any other questions. Otherwise, you can always reach out to Gene's company directly at 800-918-3032, or click on the link that's right there in the comments box. It'll take you straight to a page where you can schedule an appointment. Alternatively, you can go to leadninjasystem.com/contact us with a hyphen, and I think we're good. Mel, ready for a call? And absolutely, we'll get this for you right away. We'll make sure somebody reaches out to you. Gene, thanks so much for your time today. I think you provided excellent value, and really appreciate you doing this.
Thanks for setting it up, Josh. I really appreciate you and all you've done. Have a great day, everyone.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you again soon.